Hi and welcome to the Trini Bell Show. We're speaking to Einstein Kihanda, the CEO of the ICEA Lion Asset Management. Now, something happened and they closed their redemption offer on the Island Fahari I-rate from unrestricted into a restricted I-rate. What does this mean for unit holders, and what does it mean as well for the future of this particular rate? Einstein, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's good to see you. It's been long, but at least you're here. But first, let me start by really opening up the conversation by speaking about this particular real estate market, if I may call it that. You are credited as the pioneers of this segment of the market where you have had unit holders manage and get into this particular market. But I wanted to ask you, from the perspective of a leader in this industry, how is this particular market like to you?
I'd say it is a market with a lot of potential, and it's good that you started by giving some history.
Yeah.
So from it's been now 8 years. Mm-hmm. So the Island Fahari I-rate initially started off as the Stanley Fahari I-rate, mm-hmm. and was listed in November 2015.
Yeah.
And sought to raise about 12.6 billion shillings. Yeah. To invest in property. Mm-hmm. And for various reasons, including the fact that it was a very new asset class. There needed to be a lot of investor education, many questions regarding the properties and the properties in the portfolio. Yeah. Succeeded in raising only 29% of the targeted capital. Yeah. It was a pioneering REIT. Yeah. It was actually the first REIT in the market, mm-hmm. and came soon after the REIT regulations were approved and set up by the CMA back in 2013. So I would say that it was a learning process. Okay. I think all the challenges and the difficulties that the REIT experienced have been a learning point for the other REITs that have come in the market. So to answer your question, I think I would say that it is a market with significant potential. Yeah. And why do I say that? Is because soon after, after our REIT, yeah. we have subsequently seen other REITs come into the market, mm-hmm. and there are even more in the pipeline. Mm-hmm. So it's generally now accepted that this is a fairly important avenue, okay. through which investors can invest in the property market, mm-hmm. Collectively. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of potential, mm-hmm. And I think the learnings that we have gone through have helped to strengthen the market and even guide the decisions that those who have come behind are learning from and improving on. Okay. So as a pioneering REIT, mm-hmm. yes, we've gone through our challenges and our difficulties, yeah. and but I think we are set on the right path.
Okay. Let's talk about now the current. You've been on the news for the last few days. I think we've also aired a few of your announcements before. And I'm curious to ask you, of course, definitely you have alluded to a few things. The learnings were there. What informed this? Why did you choose to, pursue this conversion from the unrestricted to the restricted I-rate?
Oh, thanks for that. Because again, I'll just go back into history. Yeah. I've given you the reason, the performance of the REIT from listing. Mm-hmm. And this is where now the role of ICEA Lion Asset Management comes in. Okay. So in 2019, mm-hmm. we signed an agreement with the then REIT manager, Stanley, yeah. Yes, to acquire the portfolios that they were managing. Yeah. And this included the REIT. Mm-hmm. So we took over the REIT on the 18th of May 2020. Now, if you remember, 18th of May 2020 was also the year of COVID. Mm-hmm. 2 months after COVID had been announced as a pandemic, yeah. all over the world, and tough so mm-hmm. very tough time, mm-hmm. for the property market. Mm-hmm. And just to give you some insights, mm-hmm. We took over at a time when the government had already instituted regulations to close businesses like restaurants, bars, yeah. schools. So we had tenants in our properties, mm-hmm. who were then now seeking concessions. Oh. And discounts on their rent, mm-hmm. for the simple reason that their business were not open, mm-hmm. so they were not able to pay us rent.
Absolutely.
So that were some of the first developments issues that we had to deal with, mm-hmm. And therefore even in terms of the expectations of the income that we were going to earn from these investments, mm-hmm. was obviously going to be affected. Definitely. But there was an even bigger issue. Mm-hmm. The flagship property in the REIT is the Greenspan Mall. Yeah. And around that time, mm-hmm. the beginning of that year, the anchor tenant was Tuskys.
Yes.
And had already started experiencing financial problems.
Oh, sad.
So we had issues of unpaid rent, expired security deposits, and we then had to deal with how to manage that situation, to the extent that we eventually distressed them, and by the end of the year had left the building, and we then embarked on the process of onboarding a new anchor tenant who came in August, signed a lease effective August 2021, and opened the store last year in February. So it was a very challenging time for us as we now started over the role and responsibility of managing the REIT. Now that takeover process and the time that and that particular year of 2020 was also the expiry of the 5-year strategic period for the REIT by the previous REIT manager. So as the new REIT managers, we then now had to embark on a new strategy. And so what we did was engage a consultant who went through a very comprehensive review process. And one of the most important steps that we undertook was to talk to all the key stakeholders that are involved in REITs. Why? Because as the pioneering REIT, it was already clear that there had been many challenges that the REIT had gone through. I've given you the history in terms of, for instance, the amount of capital they raised compared to what was the target. And even the issue of the price, the share price. The share prices had dropped significantly.
Absolutely.
And so there are a lot of investors who are quite unhappy about how it had performed. And there were many issues. And so we felt that we needed to go to the heart and the core of understanding what is it that really ails the REIT, what can we do, and how can we improve its performance. So we engaged and talked to very many players, including the regulator, the CMA, the NSC. We talked to even other REIT institutions that manage REITs. We talked to fund managers. We talked to industry players, consultants, and this. I mean, we're talking about more than 60 different stakeholders, and collating all those views and listening to them. It got to we realized that there needed to be some very radical change in the REIT as it is. Now, the REIT really is, funds being pulled together. It's very important that for it to achieve the expectations of investors, there needs to be a critical mass in terms of properties that are in that pool that can be able to generate adequate income and deliver competitive returns to the investors. Because of that history I've given you, it meant that the REIT was not performing at its optimal level. So we needed to undertake various measures. One of the observations, and this is also from talking to a lot of the investors, was we would struggle if, for instance, we needed to raise capital from the investors. In its current shape and form, they were not willing to support it, and they were therefore very clear that there needed to be another way that needed to be thought through of how you can restructure this REIT and position it to offer returns to the investors. And we then had to come to the point of realizing that we needed to shift the platform on which the REIT is listed in order to shield and manage the issue of volatility. And it appeared that the volatility in terms of the market was also a big factor. And I think our observation has been borne fruit by the fact that the subsequent REITs that have come to the market have actually not followed the route that the Fahari IREIT initially followed, and for those very reasons. And as you have seen, they have also been able to raise capital on that other platform. So I think it's given, it's confirmed the understanding that we needed to shift to
and by that other platform you mean USB?
I mean the listed securities platform, the USB. And that is therefore the approach that we took. Engage the regulators, and we got to the point now where we received approval in August from the regulator now to make this offer to the non-professional investors that will then allow us to move the REIT from the main investment market, unrestricted, to the restricted market, which is restricted to the professional investors.
Wow, I think that's a mouthful, and it's important to build a context so that people can really understand, because there were so many questions of why this is happening. And I'm also curious now that you closed this, from a general perspective, how was the reception?
I think the reception was positive.
Okay.
Because right from the time when we made the announcement, we received a lot of feedback from investors. And then the other thing that we also did was to create opportunities for us to engage the unit holders. So we had webinars.
Yeah.
We had various, we had webinars. We also did Twitter calls with investors. Yeah. We did media briefings, broker trainings. Yeah. All of this was in an effort to ensure that we communicate all the information that investors had with regard to this particular transaction. Okay. And it gave us an opportunity to really listen to the queries that they had and address them. Okay. And so I think that 1 month period gave us an opportunity to really engage, and it has given us a perspective that it has been positively received. Yeah. And I think we are on the path to getting to the next stage of the process. Okay. So your redemption offer was 11 shillings per unit for the non-restricted. Yes, it was. And one of the questions that was coming up was, how do you arrive at this valuation? Yes. Thanks. I think, I can say that it was a fairly scientific process. Okay. And we've actually outlined it in great detail in the conversion offering memorandum. But just to give you a perspective, we looked at various methodologies in terms of valuation methodologies, including what you call the dividend discount model, the income approach, and also the net asset value. And we came up with a weighting of this different pricing mechanism to arrive at a price that was we deemed appropriate and attractive enough to the investors. And I think if you look at how the trading, the trading that took place soon after we had made the announcement, and also the activity that we have seen, it was a significant boost to the market, especially when you look at the current market environment in terms of share price performance. I think it was a fairly positive development for the market. Yeah. And I think there was a lot of enthusiasm and interest from the unit holders. Okay. Yeah. I want us to take a quick break, but once we come back, I'm curious to know, for the people who are watching, is there some hope for them, and what does this mean even for the ones who decided to stay on in this particular offer that you gave out? We're taking a short break. We'll be right back right here on the Trading Bell. Welcome back to the Trading Bell. We are speaking matters rates, and we are with the Chief Executive Officer of ICEA Lion Asset Management, Mr. Einstein Kihanda, letting us know what happened and in their closed offer that they just had, moving from unrestricted IRA to restricted. And if you just joined us, we were just at the section where we were talking some terms. In fact, I would like you to actually demystify some terms, because we've been talking about an unrestricted, restricted, unit holders, and there's a definitive term under the capital markets. What does it mean? I think so. When you talk about restricted, it fairly means, and this is what we outlined in our publication, in our announcements. Yeah. It's really about what you call a professional investor. Okay. So the Capital Markets Authority, the NSE, categorizes a professional investor as an investor who has a threshold in terms of minimum value of the investment at 5 million shillings. Okay. The assumption is that that kind of investor has access to resources that will enable them to effectively make a decision in terms of the investments. Okay. And like research, technology, and other ways of being able to effectively make that decision, and also possibly has the risk appetite to be able to effectively make decisions in terms of the investment portfolio. Whereas a minimum, a threshold below that, what you'd call non-professional and or retail, and therefore, I think I would say that is really the categorization. Okay. And therefore, what that means is, in a nutshell, broadly, that there is need to protect the non-professional investors in terms of information, and also the kind of opportunities that are available. Yeah. But I think what as I said, more important, it's really about the risk profile, and also the access that they have to advice. For instance, stockbrokers, investment advisors, lawyers, and other professionals in the financial services sector. Okay. Yeah. Let me ask on the same thing. Was there room for this non-restricted or non-professionals, even we use that term, was there room for them
to sort of like come together so that at least they can qualify to be among the professional investors?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yes, they had options. So if you are a non-professional investor in the REIT, the first option you had was to accept the redemption offer of the 11 shillings, through which you will then go through a process of the redemption. Number two, you could actually top up your investments so that you reach the 5 million shilling threshold, and you will therefore be a professional investor, and therefore you don't have to go through the redemption process. But the third one is where you would actually do nothing. And the reason for this is we need to also cater for the fact that there may be investors who probably will simply not be able to access them. They may not be reachable. They may also be going through probate in terms of transfer of assets, and therefore within the time in terms of ownership, say from a deceased person to beneficiaries. So as a result of that, you also have to take in the possibility that you will not get 100% of those investors. So what will happen to them? What will happen to them is that they would then all be put together in a bundled nominee account. And that nominee account, managed by us as a REIT manager, would then be able to hold all those units on behalf of those unit holders. They will still hold whatever units they held in their name, but it will be now under that collective bundle, and they would have that nominee account would have voting rights at the AGM. If there are any dividends that are paid in, they will be received and they would be distributed to the unit holders. So we also had to make sure that we take care of
that they're covered.
That we also cover.
Absolutely. By the way, for those who choose to redeem, when are they getting their money?
So for the calendar, they are being paid on the 24th of October. So once we complete the process and the results are out, we'll then be able to make the payments.
Back to the restructuring, and you mentioned it earlier that you chose to move to the USP platform. And I was just curious, why? Maybe for the sake of people who will be asking, why did they decide to move on this particular side of things?
Well, again, that's a good question. Why? The reason is because, as I said, the biggest challenge that we faced over that period of time was, of course, the volatility of the market and the impact that it had in terms of the valuation, and also the fact that there was need for stability. Especially because it's important for us to be able to engage with with property owners, and even in terms of capital raising, that stability was necessary. As you have seen from the, and I'm sure, you're very familiar with the movement in the market. There's been significant volatility, and that does not augur well for a REIT or any investment that requires regular capital raising and to be able to engage with the property investors who, for instance, would want to swap their properties for units or any other capital raising venture that we would undertake. It would be fairly compromised, and therefore there was need for that stability, and also to give the REIT room to be able to undertake the actions that were necessary for us to place it on a path of growth. Remember what I said, the original, from the time of the IPO in 2015, not having adequately raised the capital that was required, and therefore invest in the pipeline of assets that were already in the plan, it meant that the REIT started off on a very low footing, and therefore there needed to have been the time to be able to build the property portfolio to the point where there was a sufficient critical mass for investors. So what we are basically saying is that we need that time to be able to undertake the various measures that are necessary to put this REIT on a platform for it now to gain the momentum that was necessary for it to continue to grow.
No, you're right. And as we come to a close, Einstein, there are two questions here. First, for the person who could be watching and saying, 5 million, man, some figures could be hit in there. But I would want you to spell out, because I know now you're getting to a time where now you're structuring your next movements, which you'll probably share in a very few minutes. But where is the place of the small investor, the small unit holder, for example, who could be saying, I I believe in ICEA, and one day I would want to tap into that. So probably you could share on that and maybe combine it with what are you looking at as a strategy moving forward?
I would say for starters, in terms of the investors,
yeah,
it may not necessarily be directly in the property market, but for us as a group, we have products that are that cater to the needs of the investors.
Okay.
Actually, if you look at our investment product, we start all the way for 500 shillings. So we are structured in a way that we can be able to take care of the needs of investors.
Okay.
All the way from 500 shillings and above.
Okay.
So we're not saying that. So we're not. We certainly have the ability and the capacity to cater for those investors, whether it is in terms of money market investments, fixed income, and then equities, and other exotic products that you can look at and look for in terms of investments. So those opportunities are still there.
They're there.
But now coming to the REITs itself, I think there is hope in the sense that we have seen growth in terms of new REITs coming into the market. We are now, we started off in 2015 with only one. We now have 3 in our market. And from my understanding, there's a pipeline of others that are following. All right. What that basically means is that there's going to be a lot of understanding and familiarity with REITs, and people will now be able to invest on a continuous basis. So I think there's hope for that.
And I think mine was more of looking forward. What are you looking at towards maybe next, what's in the offing? I don't know whether it's 5 years or so.
So I think we've given ourselves a target in terms of raising, in terms of where we want the REIT to be, at least double in size from where it is right now within the next 5 years. And I think, I'm sure we're going to be able to achieve that. We're working very hard in terms of being able to position ourselves through the acquisition of properties. At the end of the day, for this REIT to grow, it needs to acquire properties, and therefore we have, as a REIT manager, we have an obligation to the investors to go out there in the market, look for those properties, and bring them onto the REITs and deliver returns to the investors. So you'll be hearing a lot more from us, as we now complete this process that will set us up on the path for growth into the future. So we are very optimistic about what it means for us, and we appreciate the support that we've received from our investors, the regulators, and all the other stakeholders, because I think it will give us the time and the opportunity to be able to position the REIT for the future. Okay. Yeah.
I know about a conference that is coming up. I think it's RAC, REIT Association of Kenya. And I know you're part and parcel of it because you're part of the pioneers of this market. And one of the questions is, when you look at, and I started with this though, but I want to finish with this, the current government agenda as well has come out strongly with housing, I mean real estate, and really trying to, especially house its people. Are you seeing in your strategy somehow, maybe sometimes moving towards even, housing for the people as well? Is it part of what you're thinking about? Maybe I know.
I think certainly housing will be a critical area of concern, especially looking at what we are as a REIT, and even the REIT market in general. Because what that does is that having a structure that enables collective investment into property markets, and knowing also the housing deficit that we have in this country, certainly REITs presents a very important opportunity for investment in property. And I think, speaking about the conference and as an association, what we've sought to do is to present opportunities for stakeholders in our industry to understand a lot more about what goes on out there in other markets, because it gives an opportunity to understand some of the difficulties and challenges other REITs have gone through, and also build in terms of capacity. We've also been involved in association in terms of policy proposals, in government measures that will help the REIT grow, and we're also involved in a lot of investor education, right up to the university level in terms of professionals in the industry. So I think the lessons that we are learning, we believe, will help us in terms of growing the REIT market.
You've gone through the ups and downs of developing this, and we still hope you keep up the spirit, and we wish you well from the Trading Bell Show, so that at least we can get to learn as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Einstein.
Most appreciated.
There you have it. And before I leave you with the markets, just one quick announcement. You just heard us talk about the RAC conference, so just visit them. I think you can check on their websites, Rates Association of Kenya or rac.co.ke. See whether you can secure a seat there and go discuss and get into these details. Speak with the professionals as well who have been in the industry and have seen it all. Because you know what? There's always something for everyone, so you never know where you can tap in. Thank you so much for your time. That has been it right here on the Trading Bell Show. Good evening now with the markets.